Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
Welcome back, everybody. Time again for another Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show, although more than just comic books with our guest today. John Suntress here. Happy to welcome back Corinna Bechko. Good to see you, Corinna. How you been?
Really good. Good to see you.
Yeah, geez. Well, first of all, and certainly it's in the title of this episode, got to talk about the new Dark Horse book, Avatar, Adapt or Die. Excellent. Am I right? Is this the current series?
It absolutely is. And there will be, I believe there is one issue out now. There'll be another one soon. And it's 6 issues total.
Outstanding. Very cool. Is this the first time you're writing Avatar?
It is. There's one other graphic novel of it that came out in series, same as this. But this is to coincide with the new film, of course.
Sure.
So the graphic novel collection should be out right when the film is out.
Oh, that's terrific. Honestly, I enjoyed the first movie. God, I'm among the people that all right, let's, looking forward to the second one. 13 years, though, is really interesting. And also, as you well know, just what's going on in movies in general, where it's like, this is going to be a really interesting test because, yeah, Avatar is known, but, again, it's like literally a generation ago.
It really is. And I have to be perfectly honest. I remembered seeing the film in the theater, but I had to kind of go, yeah, I remember a lot about it. And I remember the planet, or the moon, I guess, which is its own character.
Sure.
But I had to really study up. It had been a while.
Totally understand. Literally to prep for this. I mean, I read the first issue. It's great.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. No. That definitely leans into the whole Dances with Wolves vibe that obviously the movie has as well in general. And that's great. That's a great trope and everything. And why don't you let people know what you want to tell them about this arc that you're doing, Adapt or Die?
It's interesting because I really love, of course, I think most people's favorite character is probably Dr. Grace. So this is all about Dr. Grace and how it came about that she wanted to start the school for the children and to kind of integrate how they could learn about the humans, vice versa, because that's sort of a blank spot in the original film. And it kind of bears a lot. Like later, I think it'll be the tropes, as you say, will kind of continue into the new stuff. But
sure,
that stuff is sort of wide open. And when they said, oh, this is what we want to explore, I was like, oh, I'm right there, because that's all about, how colonization happens and what's fair and what makes sense and how could these things happen. And of course, that becomes, we know from the film, that turns into a huge tragedy. But of course, nobody starts an endeavor like that hoping it'll be a tragedy. They hope it'll work. So that's kind of where we're at with this one.
Very cool. Is the company, like, is Cameron's people, I would imagine your script has to be vetted. Did you get a chance? So I want to hear about that, but also, did they give you a look at the second movie in terms of, where they were going?
Well, no, they did give me a Bible laying out exactly what, like the animals, the plants, the machinery for the humans, all of that stuff I got a look at that had been the Avatar universe is also games and other things. So I got a look at that, but I did not get a look at the new movie. Like when I worked on The Expanse last year, I did get to see that before it came out. But this, they are very, very close to the chest on. However,
sure.
Cameron, it was amazing to me. He is so invested in this world that he reads everything. He read the scripts I turned in, and I was shocked.
That's fantastic.
I did not expect that to happen. I was like, wait, he's going to read my words? But
that's wonderful. Well, again, that's why. And again, this guy's track record speaks for itself.
Oh, yeah.
But again, he hasn't released anything since 2009. He's been so heavily into this and everything. But I mean, I just love that kind of industry slogan. It's like, don't bet against James Cameron. And it's
No,
like,
and
yeah, it's true.
that attention to detail just blew me away. I mean, it's you always hear stuff about, oh, it's just such and such, like not Avatar, but something or other will be, oh, it's just a money grab, or oh, they don't really care. It's like, oh no, this guy, he cares.
That's cool. And again, I mean, I think you're, very true to the world. I think
Thank
you
you.
achieved, I think what they're hoping for from this and everything. No, great first issue. And no, I appreciate that you're doing this, and I think it's
Thanks,
cool.
I
And
really
like I said,
appreciate
yeah,
that.
it's and you're a great I mean, you're great at original stuff as well, but you're a great licensed writer. I mean, I really have
Thank
enjoyed
you.
everything you've done. I mean, we've talked before about your run on Angel. I got
Oh
to
yeah.
catch up on the Expanse so I can read your run on that. In
Oh, that
fact,
was really fun. I love that. I love that universe. So that was really fun to do too. I've been really lucky with my licensed work, honestly.
understood. And Dan here, Dan V900, says, loved your work on Planet of the
Oh,
Apes. Agree. Star Wars Legacy, absolutely. Volume 2. Is that right?
thank
Yeah, volume
you.
2. And also, yes, and also liked Invisible Republic. Yes, your Image series,
Oh, thanks so
which,
much. I mean,
you know,
I can't take total credit for those, but thank you so much. I'm
yeah,
really
you
proud
did
of
a
the
great
work
job.
that we did on those. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, and Green Lantern, Earth 1, or whatever it was called, Year 1,
oh
Earth
yeah,
1, I forget which.
the very
But
long, long time. Earth One, Volume One is yeah. There's a lot of numbers in that title.
no, absolutely, man. No, and again, that's why it's like I really think you do your research, and I think you represent these licenses well.
Thank you. Yeah,
So,
it's really
you know,
important to me to get the feeling of each universe correct. So I spend a lot of time on. I feel like that's as important as anything because Star Wars feels totally different than The Expanse, and if you don't put that in there, it's not going to feel like the right property. So,
all right, I'm gonna wait till talk to you about Star Trek from a TV standpoint. But I know you're a Star Trek fan, and
oh
would you
yes,
ever have you pitched to IDW? Have you tried to get anything
I
going over there?
I have. I've done a couple of Star Trek shorts in the past. It's funny. I actually did one with Nurse Chapel, and it's really funny to with the new one, and I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
seeing her there,
yeah.
which is because I always thought, oh man, more should be done with her. So I love that. But yeah, I would love to do more Star Trek. I love Star Trek. So
Atta girl. Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I know. We'll talk about TV later. But yeah, I was just wondering because knowing that you are so you did Chapel Story. What's the other story you did?
I did another like a couple of shorts. I actually, it's funny. I always end up dealing with the doctors. Like I would absolutely love to do one with McCoy. So I've done almost every other doctor, but not
Oh
him.
wow,
And like, please, somebody let me write McCoy.
that's fantastic. Have you ever read that paperback? It was called Doctor's Orders.
I have not, but everybody keeps telling me I should. So I
It
have
is such
got
a
to
great
find a
McCoy.
copy of that.
Yeah, it is such a great McCoy story. It really is. And I got to be honest, I really have leaned into, because there's literally hundreds of these Star Trek novels and
Oh,
everything.
there's so many.
Yeah, they've been making them since, the 70s. Good Lord. I
Right.
remember being a kid and Spock Must Die, James Blish. It's like, wow, cool. You know,
I just recently I was in a well, it was a couple months ago now. COVID has kind of compressed all time, but I was in a used bookstore and I found a novelization of an episode of the animated series, and I was like, well, I have
yes,
to buy this.
yes. No, he's good. And I'm Alan Dean Foster, right?
Yep, exactly right, exactly right. So I
You know,
just no way I could pass that up.
no, those are terrific. And he even wrote recently, and then we'll get back to what you write and everything. But he recently wrote a Kelvin Universe original story that was proposed to be the second JJ movie, and
No
they turned it down
kidding.
from a script standpoint, so he made it into a novel. No, he knows his stuff.
Oh
He's great.
wow, that is
He's terrific.
amazing.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. Those things, and again, they were coming out, before the first movie came out, and we lived on those and James Blish's adaptations of the original
Right.
series. And James Blish's, both of them are fine
Oh
sci-fi
yeah,
writers.
great
Hell,
writers. It's
and
I mean,
as you know, Alan D. Foster also wrote Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
absolutely. Yeah, I
So
mean, quality stuff.
yeah, yeah. Well, back to you now. You were telling me before we got started, you've got a couple cool books for kids that are coming up as well.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I a while back I did a book for the Smithsonian with a friend of mine. Brenda Scott Royce, who writes a ton of kids' books. And it was about dinosaurs. And I was like, oh, I'd love to do more of these. And lo and behold, it's like we did that one together. And then for some reason, they started offering us books where we each, like last year, I wrote one that was 1,000 super space facts, which will be coming out in the fall.
Cool.
And they gave her 1,000 animal facts. So it's cool now. Instead of writing together, we're writing kind of companion books. But right now I'm working on one called 365 Days of Dinosaurs. So it's a dinosaur fact per day for a whole year. So that should be out in 2023.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
excellent. And the latest Jurassic is coming up pretty soon too, right?
Yeah, I can't wait for that. I will be in the theater for that one.
I just listened to Jeff Goldblum on the SNL podcast being interviewed, and primarily they talked about his times on the show. But yeah, of course, it was part of the Jurassic press junket and everything.
Oh,
But no, it
of
was
course,
interesting.
yeah.
I'm glad the originals are back. I mean, I got nothing
Me too.
against Chris Pratt and company.
Oh no, I mean, as long as there's dinosaurs in there, I will watch.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. Were you? I'm assuming you were a fan too of that puppet dinosaur show from the late '90s, right?
I like my dinosaurs a little more realistic, which
Fair
I know
enough.
a lot of people will still argue with me about the feathered dinosaur thing, but I like my dinosaurs as realistic as possible. So
you've gone on some really cool digs. Have tell us about some of the things that you've worked on to uncover.
Oh yeah, I've been really lucky with that too. Because for folks that don't know, my day job is I'm a fossil preparator at a natural history museum. So I, in the summers, usually go on field work and do digs. So this last summer, and probably this summer too, depending on permits and COVID, and blah,
Sure.
blah,
Yeah.
it's we're going after a stegosaur in Utah.
Wow.
But this last year, it's a really rugged area, more rugged than I've been in before, and we had to actually build a road to get to this thing. So
wow,
it was a challenge, but it was a lot of fun. So I was in really good shape afterwards.
I bet that's amazing. I mean, yeah, I've only been to Salt Lake City, but obviously surrounded, it's in a valley, you're surrounded by mountains and everything.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful, but yeah, I can appreciate that. Good Lord.
So hot too. It was about one day it was 114 and I was just like, gosh, I'm out here with a pickaxe and it's 114. It's like,
wow.
It's like some old black and white movie. Like, you're.
Yeah, no, what are you talking about? You're Laura Croft, for Christ's sake. That's fantastic. So no, that's awesome. First of all, what could you do during COVID? Could you go out on digs and stuff? I mean.
Yeah, the first year of COVID, that summer, they canceled everything because they just couldn't figure out how to do it safely, even though everybody would be in a bubble and camping. But at that point, we didn't know as much about if you're outside, it's better, that kind of thing. So they actually sent us all home and I worked on small fossils at home with just dental picks and stuff. So it was slow going, but
yeah.
And it was very, very, very messy to do that in a little apartment. I was like, there's so much dust in my apartment all the time.
And are you like gently sandblasting or whatever, basically? I mean, like you said, you're working with picks.
I mean, yeah, when I was doing that stuff at home, it was for little tiny stuff that came out of a place called Ghost Ranch in New Mexico. That's Triassic age, a lot of like crocodile relatives, that kind of thing.
Wow.
But little tiny stuff. But normally when I'm in the lab, I'm working on big sauropods that are like, oh gosh, some of the jackets that the fossils are in are 2-3 tons.
Wow.
So they're huge. Like they're bigger than me. So those I could not bring in.
That's not much of a stretch, Corinna. We know each other. So it's not like you're about to start for the WNBA anytime soon. So don't get me wrong, buddy. I'm a short man. So
it's good though because if they take a picture of me next to the fossil looks really big.
I can imagine. Absolutely. That's fantastic. That's great. Seriously, that is so cool. And truly, I've appreciated your other past professions as well. Infamously, you'll forgive the infamously adjective, but you were curating explain your job that I always gently tease you about, because honestly, I just think it's fascinating. Not all the terrible stuff that we've learned since and everything, but
my stint at Playboy. Yeah. Yes, I was a zookeeper at the Playboy Mansion here in LA. And
How many people have that under? Seriously, that's an interesting trivia question. In the years of that being made, how many different zookeepers were there? Three,
it's
maybe?
it's a good question. There were, well, while I was there were five of us at once because
Wow.
the collection was fairly large. And actually, one of my closest friends I met there, she's recently moved to Nebraska of all places, but we've remained friends this whole time. But yeah, she's actually one of the best zookeepers I've ever known, and she really transformed it. But it was a really interesting job because for all of his faults,
Sure.
Mr. Hefner was very into rescuing animals.
Wow.
So, like a
Complicated man. Absolutely.
complicated man, like, he saved
So
the
yeah.
Hollywood sign, and he would take in, like, if animal control found monkeys, and what do you do with monkey? Like, at one point we had two spider monkeys that had been found in a garage in the valley
Holy
that
cow.
had just been in a garage for years. I'm sorry, my cat's getting in the frame here.
No problem.
But like, they hadn't really had proper nutrition, anything. And because he had a zoo permit, he's like, yes, bring the spider monkeys. And they lived at the mansion. They lived out their lives. I think they've it's been a long time. They've passed on since. But
Sure. That's insane. So did the new owners basically close the zoo and everything? Is that
yeah, it's
what really
as I
happened?
understand. Yeah, I think it was a weird thing. I think back in the day, it was easier to get something like a zoo permit if you were
Sure.
a famous guy.
Right.
Because
Absolutely. Good Lord. Yeah, man.
you
We talk about
know,
Michael Jackson was walking around with bubbles, for God's sake. So
exactly,
sure. And Hollywood, just in general, with all the different wild animals they'd use in shoots and everything.
right. And it's not so much like that anymore. So my understanding is, I don't know that it was so much that they wouldn't have kept them. It was more of a grandfathered in thing. So I think,
I understand.
yeah. So it
Yeah,
wasn't so
so
much
with
like
with
the
his passing.
fireworks permits. Yeah, because like Mr. Hefner used to have a full on fireworks display every 4th of July, which a normal person in the middle of Beverly Hills can't do.
Sure. Absolutely.
But at
How
some
long were you there?
point, I was there about 5 years.
Wow. That's crazy,
Yeah.
honestly.
Like, I was doing other stuff too. I was writing and doing some stuff like that. But yeah, I was there for it might have been a little more than that, but that was like my main job for 5 years.
That's cool. Among the licensed books that you have written comic wise, which have been the favorite license that you got to work on?
Oh gosh, that it changes a lot depending on what I'm working on at the time,
Okay, sure.
because I get really into it. But I did love Planet of the Apes. That was close to my heart because I when I worked at the LA Zoo, I worked with apes. And that
Wow.
was just, I feel like we did a really good job on those.
I completely agree. You created
And
that one warrior ape and everything, and
oh
and and
yeah,
and I, as I always used to refer to yours and Gabe's run, the adventures of young Dr. Zayas. So
exactly. And we had a lot of fun, like, describing how that world should work. And it's amazing. I mean, it was very inspirational to me in a way, working on that, because it's amazing in science fiction how you can just take one little thing and tweak it and just turn a world on its head and be able to examine all sorts of things. And I think Planet of the Apes is one of the best examples of that, because you just switch humans and apes and all of a sudden you can examine politics and science and religion and just this whole, basically everything. And have a whole, we did different story arcs in there. Like, we had one that was kind of horror and one that was kind of action and one that was an apocalypse. And it's just amazing how rich that can be just by switching the one thing. So
yeah,
I really enjoyed that.
the original incarnation, yeah, it's just the mythology behind it, and I always, and I know we've had these conversations before where it's like Tim Burton didn't know what the hell he was doing, and it's like, no, man, like it's it's funny now too, because we're in the era of new Star Wars and new Star Trek, and their attempts to respin those franchises and compare it to not only what Burton did, but obviously Matt Reeves as well with his
Right.
movies and stuff. And I'm okay with the Matt Reeves movies, but I have to admit it really lacks the charm and mythology of the original movies. Would you agree?
It's hard to, I think it's hard to capture. Like, I feel like those were also such of a moment in time in a way, because
Sure.
there's certain things about that that are so poignant, but I think some of it's almost context, where if you're not trying to put context into your story, I feel like it almost loses something when it's something that's as simple yet rich as Planet of the Apes. That's sort of my take on that.
And then I think of, like I said, your Angel run. I really enjoyed that as well.
Oh, thank
Angel,
you.
absolutely. Angel went through a lot of different changes over the 5 years. Is there a favorite Angel era that you enjoyed as a viewer?
You know, it's funny because it did change so much, and I liked how it became more almost it almost started off as like a, you know, not a monster a week thing, but it was less of its own, like it was drawing on a lot of other things. And as it got
Absolutely.
going, and as it got almost towards the end of its run, and it was drawing more on itself and referencing the tragedies and the traumas and the past, also successes that he had gone through, I felt like it became more its own thing, and I really liked that it was able to, like, that's a magic trick almost to do that.
No, I agree with you absolutely, and you're right, and especially like that. I mean, I enjoyed the first season, the first couple
Mhm.
seasons,
Yeah, me too.
but it wasn't really until they kind of introduced Lorne and really got into it,
Exactly.
and we got more deeper into all the supporting characters as well. And you're right. Oh, good. That fifth season is just the best. And
Exactly. It,
oh
it's
God,
it's and it becomes, it's almost like it as it, I don't want to say feeds on itself, but as it circles itself, maybe it's a better way to say it. I feel like it lent itself, it became more of a tapestry almost.
agreed. I'm just checking to make. All right, I lost the picture for a second. If everybody lost the
Oh,
picture, I hope the sound came through. But we had a little hiccup in my Wi-Fi, so I apologize if we
sounded good
lost
to
the.
me.
There
So
you go. I certainly heard you throughout that, so that's good. Maybe it was just on my end, hopefully. But the yeah, I do. I love Angel, and yeah, I think it's great ending. But then again, it's a shame we didn't get more. And further,
exactly.
well, again, that's where the comic books came in, and a lot of your stories
Right.
were post season 5, right?
Yeah, and I liked it that the each each year of the comics was, they were called a season.
Yes,
So they were actually meant to be a season of the show. And I thought that was a really nice use of the medium. It's a different medium, but I think it still works for telling those stories.
yeah. Comic Boom. Good comment here. He had no idea that you're working on the Avatar comic. Awesome. Loved her work on Earth One
Aw.
Green Lantern, Volume 1 and 2. Any plans for Volume 3?
Oh, unfortunately, that isn't happening. But thank you so much for reading the others, and I'm really glad you enjoyed them. So there will
Yeah.
be other things, but no more Green Lantern. I'm
Do you
sorry.
have some upcoming DC work?
Not currently. I did some short things recently. Actually, I did a short story in the Wonderful Women of the World, which was Wonder Woman presents like actual real women.
Oh,
And
wow.
I did
Okay.
some Batman shorts that were really fun, and some stuff like that. So I don't have anything exactly on the schedule right now for that, but hey, DC, I'd love to write more Batman.
That'd be great. Well, tell me about your Batman stories.
Oh, it was a little while ago. It was just some short stuff. One of them dealt with, oh, is there really an urban legend in Gotham Woods? That was really fun because
Cool.
I got to, kind of make him get out of the Batmobile and go on foot through the woods and do a
Oh,
sort of,
nice.
haunted. I got to do a little, like, I know that there's a lot of movies right now that are folk horror. So this was my folk horror Batman story. So I was
Cool.
very pleased that they let me do that.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I know you are a much bigger horror fan than I am, but I like that. I mean, I honestly, I say the same thing to people like Seeley as well. I mean, it's like, no, that's terrific, and it sounds kind of same, but I honestly mean it's like, no, horror is really interesting from an outsider standpoint. I just don't get into it, but I really
Yeah,
do appreciate the various levels of, like you just said, folk horror and other things that you can do. And good lord, the filmmakers are just amazing. And man, you want a bulletproof genre that no matter what makes money? Horror. It's amazing.
it's really true. It's never huge, but it's reliable.
Yeah, and
Although,
it make well, you can make a good movie on a reasonable budget and make a hell of a
right.
profit. And God, Craig Zoller is a guy that I've gotten to know, Bone Tomahawk, and
Oh yeah.
Celie and Mike Morisi have their movie. It's going to be on Shutter
I am
next month.
excited about
Revealer.
that. I
Yeah, me
am
too.
really excited. I think that's so terrific that they're getting to do that because, I mean, yeah, they talk about knowing some horror. My goodness. And Celia's
Absolutely.
fantastic with that
Oh yeah,
stuff.
no, no, no. And again, that's why it's like, God, I wish I had the passion that you all have, because truly, see, it's like, hey, do you want to talk to so and so? And I'm like, I would suck talking to that person because I would just be like, okay, so it's like it'd be the Chris Farley show. It would
Yeah,
terrible. It
right.
would. So
Yeah, we just went to see Men last weekend, and I was like, speaking of a low budget, I mean, I'm assuming it was, it's mostly in one house, and I was
yeah.
like, wow, you can do a lot of really horrific stuff with a very limited palette.
Well, and that's, I mean, literally, Maurice and Celie were telling me about Revealer as they were making it and stuff, and they're like, yeah, it was a real challenge, and they shot it during COVID and everything. But again, the
Yeah,
story lent itself to be isolated like that. So it's no, that's cool. That's very interesting. I've been,
yeah,
I've, it's in the back of my mind when I see shows that were made during COVID and how they're handling it and stuff. Yeah, it is interesting.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. It's a whole. I wonder if in the future it'll be viewed as its own. I don't know if
Era.
genre is the right word. Era. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
era.
no, you're right. That is interesting. I didn't think of that, but I think you're right. And again, these changes in Hollywood are really changing the business, and I think in a very no matter what, even if when we get back to normal per se,
Right.
and depending
Whatever
on the
that will
state,
look like.
right? Have we fallen out of the habit of the movie theater?
Right.
I
Although
s-
I have to
go
say
ahead.
I've gone to more movies since I was vaccinated than I did for because I appreciated it. It was and
Sure.
I feel like it's a
Yeah.
place I can go where I know that the ventilation is good, it sucks all of the air. So I feel kind of safe going to the movies.
I understand. No, what's you'll forgive the Chicago envy, but truly, being in LA, which is such a movie city still, and just the various special screenings and the Q&As and stuff. If that were more readily available here in Chicago, I would definitely be still seeing it because I grew up on that stuff, and I mean, I
Oh
really
yeah.
the art houses were always part of my movie cycle.
Right, right. Yeah,
But
and I know
now.
Chicago has some stuff
Oh
though.
no, we
It's
do.
not.
No, the music box is great. And
Mhm.
when I was a kid, there was also the Parkway and the Varsity,
Oh
and they
yeah.
were great revival houses and would show cult movies and do various festivals and things. But yeah, I think again, Music Box survives, and it's still a great place to go see a movie. But we don't get the amount that you guys do. I think in
Right.
L.A. Just because, yeah, I mean everyone's there, so sure, sit down, tell us about making 48
Right,
hours,
right, exactly. It's really
whatever.
easy. They can bring somebody in from Malibu, 40 minutes away. Yeah.
Right, right, and I believe me, that's like amazing. It's like, hey, Elliot Gould's sitting down for a Q&A, and they're going to show
Right.
The Long Goodbye, and it's like, oh, I'd love to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
So
And
I get it.
I've been super spoiled too because I recently moved and lo and behold, I moved like 3 blocks practically from a brand new movie theater that's like state of the art with the seats where
Wow,
they recline and it's
sure.
really nice. So
Oh my God, that's great.
yeah,
Have you?
I've been like using it a lot.
So beyond men, what have you seen lately?
Let's see. I saw the new Doctor Strange, of
Me too.
course,
Me too. And
and
I like that, by the way. Let's stay there for a moment because I don't I like Sam Raimi movies in general. They're
mhm.
fun. They're popcorn movies. And I obviously you can say that about a lot of horror movies. But I really did appreciate how in Doctor Strange it was both a Marvel movie and a Sam Raimi movie at the same time
It
because,
really was.
you know, yeah, and I mean, because really, the Marvel movies, like the Bond films, are so producer driven, and
Right.
notoriously, we know that Edgar Wright was going to do Ant Man, and then he and Marvel didn't really see eye to eye, and not in
Right.
any bad way, but he pulled out, and Peyton Reed did a great job in his
Mhm.
2 Ant Man movies. But it's like, okay, well, yeah, that was like the strongest indication that maybe a filmmaker, a director, will not have the carte blanche that they might if it was a different subject.
Right. And it was interesting that okay, I don't want to do any okay, no spoilers because I know some
Sure.
people probably
Yes.
haven't seen this.
No, I feel the same way. Thank you.
But I'm sure that you stayed for the end, like little stinger post credit sequence, right?
Yes.
Which I was like, oh my god, because of course it's a Sam Raimi special,
Yes.
and several people in the theater, as we were getting up, we were like looking at each other, going, oh ha ha ha. People in front of us were like, what the hell was that? Because they did not.
Right. They're not
They had
indoctrinated in
no.
Sam Raimi. Absolutely. They don't know the inside stories.
Right, which was really
That's
funny
great.
because, of course, the person I was there with, yeah, we knew that, and we
Sure.
knew.
Yeah.
So I don't, not to put too fine a point on it, but I thought that it was interesting. Again, context, I guess, right?
Yeah. No, and again, that shows you today's movie mindset from just an average audience.
Right.
And yeah, they, again, that's very good observation. You're 100% right. I didn't even think of that, and you're right. And maybe I didn't experience it. I mean,
Yeah,
because
I think
again,
it's just because of seeing it with that audience, that particular audience, that it was just like, what? They didn't get that?
was
But
it
of
a
course,
was it a big audience when you saw it?
there were not a huge number, but there were, people were spaced out, but there were more people than, like, when we went to see Men. I think it was my boyfriend and I, and like maybe another couple in the whole theater.
Yeah, that's kind of how it
But
was for Doctor Strange. There were less than 10 people when I saw it.
yeah, so,
And I saw it midweek after the opening and stuff the following Wednesday.
right.
So,
We saw
or
it. We
Tuesday.
saw it the first weekend. Oh, it was
Okay.
free it was because it was free comic book
Oh,
day, I
sure.
think, because
Yeah.
I did a signing and then we went to the movie. So I think there was a lot of crossover for that stuff. So maybe not as much for the Sam Raimi contingent.
Understood. For Free Comic Book Day, were you alone? Were there other creators with you?
No, I was the only one, and it was
Nice.
at Things from Another World at Universal City Walks. So
Yeah.
it was kind of nice because that's such a strange place though, because Universal City Walk it's its own animal,
Sure. Sure. No, that's really cool. That's excellent. All
But
right.
they sure were nice. They treated me well. They brought me a ton of free comics, and it was great.
Very cool. All right. Now I'm gonna make you talk Star Trek with me. I hope
Okay,
that's okay. Because
absolutely.
I'm a lifelong fan. But I will admit to you, and I have talked the ear off of many of our friends about this. I have to say I love Strange New Worlds. I think Strange New Worlds is
I
excellent.
do too. I do too.
But I have to admit I've had trouble with a lot of new Star Trek because of the way they're playing fast and loose in continuity. And if they would just say,
Yeah.
like Ron Moore did when he remade Battlestar Galactica, just go, hey, you know something? We love the original stuff. We're going to use some storylines and some character things, but we're going to do our own thing. A lot of us would have been like, okay, that's. I mean,
Yeah,
they're not
that's
maybe
true.
not happy, but be like, okay. But that I just think they're almost coy with the way they talk about canon and then their execution of stories. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I wondered how much of that is about the time travel aspects, because there is a huge amount of, with disco and all that. There's so much time travel that
True.
I don't know if they're retroactively, like, anything that's not quite continuity, or like, well, but there was time travel, so things change. I don't know.
Sure. Like, yeah, that there were ripples of their actions that have caused these
Yeah,
differences. Until somebody says it, and I don't know how you do that. Again,
yeah,
maybe you have a Spock like invasion into like the Kelvin universe, like the JJ movies.
right.
Um, but it's funny, and if I'll tell you, as they keep it ambiguous like that, the audience will define it for them. And I've found myself referring to this current era as New Trek, and I guess it would always be
Yeah,
anyway.
like new, like NU
Yeah,
track. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And with I won't deny some frustration on my part, but also because it's like, well, this is its own era. There was the Berman era, there was the
yeah,
Roddenberry era, and now there's New Trek and everything, the Kurtzman era,
yeah.
and
I mean, it's true. And so I
so
take it that Picard, you were a little eh.
oh man, beyond it. I mean, I was well, and honestly, as a storyteller, I just think the stories were all over the place, and the rewriting
Yeah,
shows, and they well, this most recent season of Picard, they had obstacles rather than story points. Like the things that were
yeah,
detaining them really didn't have anything to do with the main story, and it really would have made maybe a better 2-hour movie than a 10-hour
That's
season.
funny because we were just having this conversation and like, oh, that might have been a good movie.
Yeah, and also
Yeah, I can't disagree because I felt like sometimes it really went like there were a couple of episodes where I was like, oh, this is going, but then there was some where I was just like, oh, okay, okay,
yeah, I liked the first 2 episodes, and
yeah, me
I
too.
I keep saying this. I'm so relieved that when I spoke to Mark Bernardin, who was on the writing staff, that I liked those first 2 episodes. So I was pretty positive. But man, no, it just went downhill after that. And also, you'll forgive me, but I'm interested in what you think as well. They just lean on trauma so much, and it's like, in fact, my latest review of last week's Strange New Worlds, I called it trauma drama.
Yeah,
And
it's true.
I had to, because it's just like, God, man, every, it's like a 12-step meeting. You know, God, they invite Uhura to dinner, and it's like, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, my parents died in a shuttle accident, and it's still, kind of buzz. It's like, who says that at like their first like big get together? Hey, I'm going to make some new friends. Let me tell you about my tragedy.
Yeah, let me
And
tell you about my dead parents. Yeah, exactly.
come on, exactly. And I find this trauma baggage that they bring to New Trek to like that's their way of explaining a character. But it's like, can somebody please be happy to be there? And also, what happened to escapism? And also, I just felt that I don't see the aspirational aspects of Star Trek in New Trek.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. It is, yeah, there's a lot of maybe we're not as great as we thought we were because of yeah, that's a good point. It's funny too. I just last night we watched Poltergeist because
Okay.
the anniversary is coming up and all of that,
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's right. Yes, I know.
you know,
82 is a hell of a year for a lot of
right,
genre movies and
right.
everything. Yeah, Mark Altman making that documentary about 1982 and everything.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, stuff that was sort of foundational for what I would later relate to. But it
Sure.
really struck me watching Poltergeist this time how there is no trauma in that family except the poltergeist.
Right.
As opposed to like even say The Shining or something where
Sure.
and definitely any horror movie you see now where there's that meme that's the difference between psychological horror and slasher, and it's like slasher is that fucking guy. Oh gosh, was I allowed to swear? I'm sorry.
Of course you are. No, that's
Okay.
terrific. I love
So
that.
like it's the psychological horror is the true horror was us all along, and slasher is that fucking guy.
That fucking guy.
So
That's fantastic. Absolutely.
I think it's hysterical. So
Yeah.
Poltergeist is kind of that fucking ghost, because the family is happy actually. Like the parents get along, and the dog doesn't die, and nobody's being mean to the kids, and but then there's this ghost, and it's they didn't move the yeah, exactly, they moved the stones but not the graves, and it's just
I
I
love
don't
that. You're
yeah.
right. That's a great movie, man. And again, there are horror exceptions, and certainly Poltergeist and The Shining. It's like, oh no, I've seen them. They're fantastic. Absolutely.
Right, right. So, but it is funny how I don't know if you would have a movie now that was a horror movie that would rest on that fucking ghost.
Well, as someone who's really examined The Expanse compared to new Star Trek, um, I have to confess, I've really gotta get into The Expanse. But is it like filled with personal trauma?
It is, but I feel like it's more like almost like how Planet of the Apes is. It is, but it isn't. Like it's the Expanse. A lot of the drama comes out of the politics of how the world is. So people do have their personal tragedies and their traumas, but it's more like about class. Like, well, like Planet of the Apes, where there's
Sure.
the Belters who were sort of lower class, but they have to survive and they're scrappy. And then there's the people on Earth and there's the people on Mars. And Mars is supposed to be aspirational, but maybe the dream of Mars isn't quite what we thought it was.
Okay.
So there's a lot of personal histories that have to do with people's backgrounds, but
Yeah.
it's not the way Trek has been going lately. It's not all focused on somebody's background. It's a lot like, here's how we are and the families we create and how we deal with the, I don't know, the situation in which we have no control over, but what
Yes.
can we do about it? That kind of thing.
Yes. Okay. Because and it sounds like very much like Babylon 5 was in the best ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really true. And it's funny because people used to come up to us at conventions all the time and go, "Oh, I loved Invisible Republic. Have you watched The Expanse? Have you read The Expanse?" And I was always kind of afraid to while we were
Sure.
working on Invisible Republic because I was like,
Absolutely.
"Oh, if it's that close, I don't want to know."
Absolutely.
So I didn't get into it till after because, and then when I did, I was like, okay, I see the parallels because it's very poly sci-fi,
Yes. Yes.
but it's also not in any way the same as Invisible Republic, but it's got that
Okay.
sort of feeling of the the context affecting the personal.
Understood. No, I get that. Did you watch today's Strange New Worlds as we're talking
I
episode 4
actually
dropped?
I was able to watch half of it before hopping on here. So
Okay. Well,
well, during dinner I was like, okay, watch, and then so don't spoil the end.
I won't. I promise I won't. I will say though that the opening scene, and without spoiling, it's like I've really become very cynical about like let's play trauma bingo. All right,
Yeah.
and we've got dead parents. Yes, okay, and literally you could have a grocery list, and then the opening scene is essentially today we honor Tragedy Day when we all look back at the various tragedies that have affected, and it's like Jesus, come on, good
Yeah.
Lord,
Yeah.
and then also, and it's widely enough known because it's been explored in the other earlier episodes. I got to be honest, I am a canon nitpicker, and the fact that we're talking, I mean, I love the Gorn, and it's on the
Oh
one
yeah.
hand, it's like, okay, that's cool, that's interesting. I've yet to see a reason why La'an's backstory had to involve the Gorn, and it couldn't have been any other race. Because again, it's like, well, but Kirk and like, especially given that Spock is there, and it's like, well,
Right.
wouldn't Spock have known? And again, it's all retroactive. It's like just like the basics of La'an being related to Khan. And it's like,
Right.
come on, like, couldn't she have been related to another augment? I mean,
I know, it's
you
like there
could have
must
the
have been more
same.
than one. We know there was more than one. You
Right,
know?
there was a whole ship full of like 90 of them or whatever it was
Right,
supposedly.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I don't mind that they are dipping in the well from recognizable Trek tropes. Because that's good. That's what we want. We
Right.
I mean that's why we've been fans for decades. It's
Oh,
just like
sure.
Star Wars. It's a rich mythology. But
And it
by the
is,
same
I am a little bit like, I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because honestly, I would watch any Star Trek. Like,
you're
like
talking
no,
to the right
even,
person, buddy.
you know.
You know that. I'm the same way. Yeah, well literally it was I mean god, I even remember when Enterprise and Voyager were on, and they'd be on up against like the West Wing. And the West Wing's a brilliant show, and I never
Right.
watched the West Wing until it was in reruns because like
Right.
I can't miss Star Trek. Are you nuts? And
No,
even
that's appointment television.
and it honestly in the last 5 years or 6 years, however long, whenever Discovery dropped first, I still watch every week because and truly I'm like, well maybe I like this one a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I think Discovery is nudging in the direction that Strange New Worlds out of the gate went to, a little more
Yeah.
episodic. Let's share responsibility and solution with with the rest of the
Right.
crew, not just Michael Burnham.
Right. And
And
that did, I agree with that because it is nice to spend time with the rest of the crew because there were members on Discovery where I was just like, I'd like to. She's a good actress. I'd like to see more of her, or something like that. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And truly to take, I would say, 3.5 seasons to really know who the bridge crew is. It's
mhm.
like I understand they were focusing on other characters on the ship, but it's like, but the action happens on the bridge, and for a
Right,
very long time, all we knew were Burnham and Saru, and
right,
Detmer, kind of the eyepiece lady, and then there's the dreadlock lady whose name
right.
I escapes me right now, and an Asian guy and a black gentleman, and I'm like, okay, but it's like, can we get their names? And finally, it seemed like in season 4,
Yeah,
they're
getting a
and
bit
also
more.
that the other crew members had something to do,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
That was good, and I mean, there's a lot I liked about that show,
Okay.
including the cat. I love that there was a cat. I
I
mean,
understand.
as soon as oh, she's a queen, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's but that's just appealing to my personal demographic, I guess.
Here, listen to what Ed has to say. Q mysteriously helps Picard reconcile all of his experiences throughout life with time manipulation to ultimately save the day with teamwork to stop a galactic threat. He feels the Next Generation finale is greater than, or I guess a finale redux. That's his description, I guess, of Picard season 2. I would agree. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
And I don't think did it as elegantly as All Good Things did.
I
The Next
love
Gen
All Good
finale.
Things.
Great story.
Oh, that is a
Absolutely.
great. So, yeah, I get what you're saying, Ed.
And also Tapestry. I think did a better job that episode than
Yeah,
what we got,
Tapestry's
and
great.
that's kind of why it's like I understand that Patrick Stewart really wanted this kind of story to be
Yeah.
part of Picard, but again, I wish someone say, yeah, but there's all these photographs of your old mom, like in in Generations, and then of course the
Yeah.
scene in that first season, and just to throw in, oh, I used to imagine my mother as an old lady. It's like, no, you didn't. Come
I
on.
know, right? Yeah.
Nice try, but no, come on. What do you? But yeah, I mean that's truly how I that it always takes me out of the story, including Strange New Worlds. As great as Strange New Worlds has been, very entertaining, very
Oh yeah.
very entertaining. But I'd give it a B minus because it's like, oh yeah, by the way, here's a discovery moment, and oh by the way, here's here's my tragedy of the week, and everybody's got a tragedy. It's like, good lord, stop it.
Well, I feel like in a way when things become so complicated that it's almost like they're going to have a crisis on infinite tracks or something because
Yeah,
there's
maybe. Well,
so they've got all these strands throughout time and oh my gosh, and maybe this is this way and then there was the mirror, there's a lot going on.
no,
So
you're right, and I mean that's I was funny because you're right in Discovery. David Cronenberg's character obviously made references to some sort of chronological
right.
thing, but they've
Yeah.
also even Paramount, or I should say Secret Hideout, that's producing
Mhm.
all the new Star Trek shows. They have kind of floated the idea that there might eventually be a crossover of the
I was
various,
yeah.
which I would love to see, and maybe that would explain and whatever. But it's like, I don't know, I forgive my audience entitlement, but it's like, okay, could you please address this and just be like, okay, soft reboot, we know, please let us tell our story,
Yeah.
and we understand, and just admit. Or I mean, I've really gotten to, like I said, calling it new Trek. I mean, because it's like, all right, if that's what it is in it, I would include Picard in that.
Well, and I just have to, as an aside, say the most
Please.
unexpected thing for me is that Cronenberg has become a regular recurring character.
I know, isn't that weird?
That is, I was like, huh, he's back. Hey, he's back again.
It's like when David Lynch was on Louis C.K.'s FX show, which I
Yeah.
loved. Oh my God, that was so great, and he was so ridiculously funny. But yeah, I am enjoying Cronenberg. But as I'm sure we all are, it's like, all right, when's he going to turn bad? Because it's David Cronenberg.
Oh,
This
look at
kid,
him. Just look at his
yes,
character. Look at that jacket he wears. He's got to have some
come
bad
on,
thoughts.
yeah. So when is that going to happen? So, and also, in both the case of Burnham being Spock's brother, and I would say now with La'an being a descendant of Khan, I've yet, and it's only been 4 episodes for Strange New Worlds in 4 seasons of Discovery. It's like, you haven't shown me why she needed to be Spock's sister. And
Yeah.
also, I mean, I really think, and this is something I've talked about with other people, I think they really missed an opportunity to have her raised by different Vulcans. And then you could really have
Yeah.
a scene with like her dad and Sarek, and like, hey, I know your son is half human. How do you deal with it? Well, I know you're raising a human. How do you deal with it?
You know,
And
I agree with that because yeah, I feel like I like the idea of oh, what would a human be like being raised by a Vulcan? But I was kind of like, God, how small is this universe? You know?
exactly, exactly, yeah. And that's why it's like, they lean too much on member berries. Man, South Park, thank you for coining such a simple phrase, and we all know what you mean when we say it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's too bad because again, it also feels like, and as a sci-fi fan, um, that they are really not only rehashing Star Trek tropes but other franchises tropes as well. And
Yeah.
it's like Star Trek used to lead with
Right.
ideas
Yeah,
and
it's true.
things, and it's like now they follow. And frankly, I just don't think a lot of these writers, Mark Bernardin aside, because I know how much of a fan he is and also how good of a writer he is, but I don't think a lot of them are very good sci-fi writers. I don't think the science fiction is very good. And secondly, as much as the trend is to one story one season in current television, I haven't been impressed. I think each live action show you could punch holes in as far as their
Yeah,
storytelling.
it's a funny thing. I feel like I mean, there's a lot going on, obviously, with the different, like, there's so many all at the same time. Like, there's Picard, and then Stranger Worlds happen. Like, I mean, it's kind of going on even with Star Wars as well. It's like,
Absolutely.
how many shows are there? And they're all in the desert? You know, it's, I mean,
You're
I
not
get
wrong.
it from a budget standpoint, but, and why is it quadrophenia all of a sudden? But, anyways, yeah, it's,
That's fantastic. No, but you're right, and I do worry about that too because obviously we saw with the Star Wars movies, yeah, they kept making money, but the fans are like, it's like maybe slow down a little bit, man.
yeah,
Catch
maybe
your breath.
just let it percolate because I almost feel like there's not enough time to, I don't know, for whatever's going on in the one spot to be digested and be then not co-opted. What's the word I'm looking for? Because it's the same, universe, but to be, I don't know, then useful in another context. Like there's not enough time to reflect on.
Agreed. Oh no, I agree with that, and I would almost say the same thing about Marvel right now too.
Yes, I think that's true because there's so much and it's all a little messy.
Well, yeah, and the likelihood too is that COVID kind of put a pause on the movie side.
Oh, sure.
The TV side was chugging along, and now there's so much stuff in the pipeline that they wanted to release years ago. God, look at Top Gun
Yeah.
Maverick and everything.
All of a
That yeah,
sudden, everything. Yeah.
everything's
All at
got to come
once.
out. Yeah, and they were already making the other movies down the line, and it's like, hey, the trains are running. We got
Right.
no choice. You got to leave the gate. So be it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
so yeah, I mean, no, I get, and that's it again. That's why, as like a broadcast nerd and kind of a media nerd, I'm fascinated by this period. I really am.
Yeah, it is. It is very interesting, and I feel like somebody's going to get some great like papers out of this at some point. Some academics are going to have a whole lot of writing to do.
You're right. You're absolutely right about that. And again, it's like as Hollywood kind of figures itself out. Look at all those great movies that came out at the end of the year, Nightmare Alley, and the remake
Right.
of whatchamacall, the musical with Spielberg, New
Oh
York.
yeah, yeah.
Come on, shame on us. God, and I feel Karina, I feel a hell of a lot better because you're younger than me, and we're like,
Yeah,
West Side Story. Thank God.
thank you. Oh my gosh. I'm like, yeah, there's the leather jackets in the city.
Exactly, the Jets of the Shot. That's why I'm like New York. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about. What the hell was it?
Oh my
Horrible.
gosh.
But no,
I'm
that's
gonna
the thing. It's
blame
like
getting up at 6 a.m. this morning. I don't know.
I so understand. It's okay, buddy. Jesus. But no, isn't it interesting? Because my rabbit test used to be Two Guns, the movie with Denzel and Mark Wahlberg
Oh
that
yeah.
was based on the Boom comic that Stephen
Sure. Yeah,
Grant
that's
wrote.
right.
And it's like, God, that movie really didn't find its audience until DVD and cable.
Right.
And it's like, God damn it. And I would talk to Russ Ritchie from Boom and I'd say, Jesus, if this was released 10 years ago, this would have been a summer Lethal Weapon sort of blockbuster.
Right. There's so many things that are like that now. It's really,
Yeah.
it's sort of surprising. Like, and things are so, I don't know, niche. Like I got invited to the premiere for Prehistoric Planet because of my day job, which was great.
Outstanding.
So it was really fun and got to see that in IMAX and like whenever
Cool.
saw it in a theater and all this. And like my Twitter stream is full of that. But then I kind of wondered, like, outside of my bubble, like, does anybody even know about this? I don't know. Is it only going to dinosaur nerds like me? Probably. And I bet that's true for everything. Like if
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
into whatever you're into, that's just it. And it probably doesn't travel a lot out of there.
I really miss the diversity of a newspaper and
Right.
being able to just read whatever was printed, because you're
Hmm.
right about that, because everything we consume is segmented by algorithms, and
Yeah,
that's really
exactly.
dangerous. That's really, really dangerous from an entertainment standpoint. Not so much dangerous, but really when you consider just your life and society and everything, it's like
Right.
it kind of explains why we're in the crap that we're in right now socially.
Yeah. And
You know.
it's a very strange thing that it would be like that. Like, and then sometimes at work, I'll be like, oh, I watched such and such. And coworkers will be like, what now?
Sure, sure. What streamers do you have?
Oh gosh, we have a bunch of them actually. What do we have? Well, Amazon Prime, of course,
Sure.
Netflix. Um,
Okay.
what else do we have?
Do you have Disney?
Yes, Disney. Oh yeah,
Okay.
because all the Marvel stuff and Star
Sure.
Wars stuff, and
How about Hulu?
yes.
Well, honestly, no. And again, right now we're about to hit like jackpot in June and July in terms of what's coming out. And it's, I mean, Obi-Wan obviously debuts tomorrow, and
Right.
we got the next season of Only Murders in the Building on Hulu coming up
Oh,
in
I can't
June.
wait for that. I actually loved that.
So
That's
good.
speaking of something that
So
everybody watched. That was one that people from every like aspect of like everybody I knew watched that. It was funny. It was like a crossover between all of the different little niches.
absolutely no, and really, I keep saying it. Shame on me for like thinking Selena Gomez. Good luck in keeping up with Martin Short and Steve Martin. And it's like she did just fine. She was
Oh, she was
hilarious.
fine. Oh, yeah,
She
she
was
was
great.
great.
Oh no, that's a three-hander, absolutely. And I mean,
Yeah.
good Lord, no, she. I was really. That is the first time I took Selena Gomez seriously beyond her music career, and it's like,
Right.
okay, okay. I'm
Yeah.
like, she's got chops. This is cool.
Yeah. I didn't know what to expect from her because, yeah, those guys are such legends, but it was actually really fun to put them against somebody like her. Like I was
It was great.
unexpected chemistry.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, all every that entire cast came to play. Nathan Lane was surprisingly
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Everybody was surprisingly great in that. Yeah. Ed has another question. He really enjoyed Station to Station. Any future
Oh,
plans in that world or along those lines?
that's interesting. I haven't thought of Station to Station in a while. Not in that particular world, but um, I love sci-fi and I love dark sci-fi. So I do have some pitches out right now, various places. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Cool. That's excellent. So again, you've got the dinosaur book, or first the space book, right, coming out in the fall.
Yeah, that should be out. I think it comes out first as a Costco exclusive, which doesn't sound that exclusive, but hey, if you have a Costco membership and you want to read about space. Um,
That's
so
excellent.
yeah, that one's out in the fall and in time for Christmas, and then the dinosaur book next year, next spring probably. It's so
Okay.
weird right now because there's the paper shortages and
Yeah.
blah
Yeah.
blah. So it's hard to publishing, man.
I'm hip. No, absolutely. But right now, in the meantime, the first issue's out. Avatar, Adapt or Die. Great art, by the way. And shame on me for not mentioning it sooner.
Oh
What can you
yeah,
tell
I
me about
should
the art team?
I should absolutely mention this because I did not have anything to do with picking who this was because of course Dark Horse puts together its team,
Sure.
and everybody has been so wonderful about just as the writer, it's always kind of like I know that the art is what people buy comics for. Like let's face it, if the
Sure.
art, it lives or dies by the art, and these covers have been absolutely amazing. Let me make sure I tried to like actually put a note here of how to pronounce this. Please forgive me, Mark, if I'm wrong. Mark Molchan.
Oh, wow.
So beautiful covers, and then the interior artist is Benny R. Lobel, and colors are Wes Dizioba. I hope I'm saying that right because, of course, we've all been exchanging emails, not on the phone. So,
Sure.
yeah, but I am so thrilled with who, like, it's such an honor to work with such talented people. And when I started seeing the pages, I was just like, oh, this is the artist that I get to work with? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dark Horse.
Yeah, it's a top-notch production, everybody, and truly jump on it and enjoy this story. It's a great way to lead into the movie. If it's going to be 6 issues and stuff, it's going to take us right to just in time for Avatar 2. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Corinna, great seeing you. Seriously, great conversation,
Oh,
and thank you
wonderful to
for
see you too.
thank you for indulging my Star Trek frustrations.
You know, that
You know,
is always my pleasure. I will talk about Star Trek all day
what's
long.
your favorite series of Trek?
Oh my gosh, that is really, really, really hard, but I would say Deep Space Nine.
Me too. Me too.
Oh, good choice. Good
There you
choice.
go. Absolutely. Who's your favorite DS9 character?
Oh, I love Kira.
Cool. She's amazing.
She
Do you ever
is.
read the novels?
I haven't read a ton of them. I have a very, very thin knowledge of those because there are so many, and I feel like I've
Oh
only
God, yeah.
scratched the surface.
You
So.
know, the Deep Space Nine storyline, and they wrapped up the novel continuity because they started it before anyone knew that Discovery was going to happen, let alone the Kelvin universe.
Right.
But I really do appreciate that they allowed them to finish their story.
That's important because that is so frustrating when you can't finish. It's like, oh.
Sure. And they really did move Voyager, DS9, and Next Gen into like stories beyond where the finales went. And the DS9 story is really great. And Kira's personal story is a terrific character arc. But everything that happened in those, I like I said, I've really leaned into the Star Trek novels more and caught up on the ones that I wasn't paying attention to over the years because I was
I should read more of those. I've honestly the most novels I've read in any particular universe are this nerdiest thing in the world is Doctor Who novels. I've read a
that's
ton of
awesome.
those, but
Oh, good.
I should.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm talking to guys like Paul Cornell,
Oh
writing the
yeah,
ones, writing the books that he's written and stuff. No, I
yeah.
loved it.
I've read some of those. Yep. Hmm.
And those classic ones of Terrence Dicks and all the others that wrote those
Yeah.
great books. Oh God, I mean, I devoured those when
Oh, they're
all we
so
would
much
get.
fun.
Yeah, and like when we from public television, we'd only get like the Baker years and then the Pertwee years and
Exactly.
then
That was
a
me too
little.
when I was yeah.
Yeah, so it really filled in all the blanks of the
Hmm.
Hartnell and Troughton years and
And it
other
would sometimes
stories.
become surprisingly, I don't know, like emotionally effective that you
Oh,
can't
I
don't really get
understand.
in the shows. So
Oh no, and God, when Cornell got to do Human Nature as a live action show as well as the book, oh,
yeah,
that's great stuff. No, I
yeah.
mean, just like us talking now, it's like I love having Paul on, and it's all right, Paul. Let's get into the Doctor. I'll confess, I'm excited that Russell Davies is coming back
I
to
am
New
too.
Who.
I really am, and I actually loved some of the stuff he did. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it will change now that some time has passed.
Yes, and truly, I mean, Chibnall has really, again, much like New Star Trek, taken some liberties with canon that
Hmm.
obviously the entire audience didn't like. So it's like, okay, what do we do with that?
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
you keep it? Do you find a way to explain it?
right.
Yeah, and I always want to point this out because I don't want people to think I'm hating on Jodie Whittaker. I like Jodie Whittaker. She's amazing,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it's a
I
shame that she
agree.
didn't get better stories to be even more amazing.
That's
Frankly.
funny. I was literally just having this conversation this weekend that I think she's fantastic and she really brought it. Like she really gave it her all and I feel like they in some ways it wasn't up to her level, sort of.
Agreed. No, agreed. And or frankly the franchise's level, which is
Yeah.
surprising because Chibnall's written for other really good shows, including
Right.
one of my favorite shows, the original British Life on Mars. I love
Yeah.
that show.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
I love
Yeah.
that show.
But it's I just feel like I don't know that it's anybody's fault. I just feel like somewhere in there was a disconnect with material and author and team or I don't know what, but there was for me at least. I know some people love the hell out of it, but yeah, for me there was a
So do I.
disconnect.
So do I. But yeah, it was a big disconnect for me. And like I said, it's just like got to the point where I'm just like, okay, what happened in the plot? All right, I don't think I want to watch that. Yeah, I don't want to
Right.
watch that.
I
You
mean,
know?
I still watched them, but I kind of watched them and went, okay, maybe the next one.
Right, right. It's very weird time, man. I'm telling you, I the license holders of these properties, they want the machine is at full steam, and like
Right.
they want to generate as much as they can, as often
Yeah.
as they can,
Right.
and we're left to catch up. And frankly, it's like it's not as good as it used to be.
And it can be a full-time job to try to stay caught up.
100%, absolutely. Good. We didn't even mention the boys in the Orville coming back.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right. Oh my
and
God. There's so much.
I'm so excited for the Orville. I am
And
so excited.
Stranger Things is coming back,
Yes,
and yeah.
I'm telling you.
I better take a whole lot of sick days. I don't know,
I was
man.
gonna say absolutely. I know, bums. We're bums. Jesus, get back to work.
I
Exactly.
know,
Get
right?
back to the
Seriously.
dig. Buddy, great talk, man. I really appreciate this.
Yeah,
Good to see
so
you.
wonderful. Thank you for having me on. It was
Oh,
really fun.
please. Anytime. And when there's something new, just raise the bat signal, and we'll start a new conversation.
Fantastic. Happy to
Excellent.
do that.
It's going to be a busy weekend for Word Balloon. We're going to do. I'm going to talk to pre-record something with Jonathan Luna tomorrow afternoon. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Monday we'll come back with a new Trek Watch, and let Franco and Mitch catch up on Strange New Worlds episode 4, and we'll talk about that more in detail. But until then, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Great questions.